women and girls, conservation, and hope for our future. Her work mobilizes us to take immediate action to protect our neighborhood, our community, and our planet. This is yet another Natural History Museum experience that celebrates science and our natural world, while shedding light on the critical issues facing our planet today. It's up to each of us to be agents of change and to use the example set by Dr. Goodall to create a sustainable planet and future for us all. I hope you enjoy the exhibition.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, come on.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to have you here. And I know that Supervisor Mitchell wishes she could be here, but we're glad she was able to join us for a remarkable day. It's very exciting for us at the Natural History Museum. I'm Dr. Lori Bettis-Varga. I'm the President and Director of the Natural History Museum. We have 3 locations right here in Expo Park, the Natural History Museum, La Brea Carpets and Museum in Hancock Park, and the William S. Hart Museum in New Hall. So I'm delighted to have you here. I can't even tell you how exciting it is for us, because this was originally supposed to be a year ago, and we all know what was going on a year ago, and we're still sorting through that today. But we were delighted to be able to bring it here right now as the West Coast premiere of this exhibition, Becoming Jane, the Evolution of Dr. Jane Goodall. The reason we're so excited about it, probably don't need to tell all of you that are so familiar with us, is that as a museum of nature, history, and culture, this is right in our wheelhouse. This is who we are. So this exhibition promoting responsibility for our natural world through a robust exploration of how shifts in biodiversity signal our changing planet is exactly the kind of thing that we want to bring to Los Angeles. I want to first thank the National Geographic Society and the Jane Goodall Institute for partnering with us on this exhibition. Major support in Los Angeles has been provided by the Annenberg Foundation, with additional support from Bank of America, Visionary Women, Karen and William Timberlake. In addition, promotional support is provided by our media partner, Univision. Thank you for your generous support. Finally, I want to thank Sue O, our Senior Vice President of Exhibitions, Education, and Community Engagement, and her wonderful exhibitions team for all their hard work in bringing this exhibition to life, especially under such extraordinary circumstances. Now, as you've heard, Dr. Goodall is appearing here today live, albeit virtually, and I'm trying not to be nervous about interviewing her. As a female scientist, she is a legend to me. So in a moment, I'm actually going to head up to my office so that I'll be able to have that conversation with her via Zoom. But before I go, I'd like to welcome Anna Rathman and Sue O to say a few words. Unfortunately, Catherine Keene, Vice President of Public Experiences for the National Geographic Society and Director of the National Geographic Museum, could not be here today and has asked me to share some remarks on her behalf. So please welcome Anna Rathman, Executive Director of the Jane Goodall Institute.
Thank you, Dr. Lori, and our kudos to connect with Jane. First of all, thank you to the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County and to National Geographic for their extraordinary partnership in making this exhibition a reality. What you will find as you walk through these halls, you'll follow Jane's own journey of discovery. One where she started by being inspired as a young person reading books and dreaming of a world beyond her own. Those dreams ultimately led her to the jungles of Gombe, Tanzania, where she had some extraordinary discoveries as a female scientist that have truly changed the way in which we view the natural world and our relationship to animals. As we continue to follow through the halls of this exhibit, you'll learn more about what's inspired Jane, what continues to inspire her, and the work of the Jane Goodall Institute, Jane's work truly inspires hope through action. That's something that she talks a lot about, understanding the power and importance of hope. And it's something that I hope we can all take away from this exhibition and Jane's message. So with that, I'd love to introduce Jane's own comments and her own words through this short video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jane Goodall, and I'm so delighted that the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County is presenting the West Coast premiere of Becoming Jane, the evolution of Dr. Jane Goodall. That's me. This exhibition was produced in partnership with the National Geographic Society and the Jane Goodall Institute. I've spent a good deal of time over the years in the Los Angeles area, and I've got many friends among a very diverse population. And I've got to know some of the rich biodiversity of the area. It's a wonderful place to encourage people, young and old alike, to learn about urban nature research and ways to move towards a sustainable way of life. I've been really fortunate in my life. I had a wonderful and supportive family. I knew from age 10 that I wanted to go and live with wild animals in Africa and write books about them. And on my journey through life, I've met so many amazing people who've helped me. And all of this has been made clear in this exhibition. I truly hope it will inspire young people to follow their dreams. And I hope that people leave realizing that every single one of us matters. Every single one of us has a role to play. And every single one of us makes a difference every single day. The exhibition explains the various ways that you can help to protect the natural world, of which we are a part and on which we depend, even if we live in the middle of a city. This is why bringing nature into urban environments is so important and so well illustrated in Los Angeles. Finally, I want to say a great big thank you to all those donors and sponsors who, along with the Museum Board of Trustees, members, fellows and staff, have made it possible to bring this exhibition to you. I truly hope to be able to visit it myself sometime in the coming months. Thank you.
Good morning, that was really exceptional. So, on behalf of, I'm Sue L., I'm the SVP of Education, Exhibitions and Community Engagement, and I'll be reading this on behalf of Catherine Keene, the Vice President of Public Experiences and the Director of the National Geographic Museum. Unfortunately, she was on an American Airlines flight yesterday and was not able to make it, and she sends all her best, but she will be here later today. National Geographic is delighted to have this award-winning exhibition opening at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. For over 130 years, National Geographic has tried to harness the power of exploration and use it to inform, to educate, and to inspire generations of people around the world. We do this by supporting explorers who have powerful ideas about how to make the world better for the next generation. There is no better example than this than Jane Goodall. Her life is a fascinating tale of curiosity, courage, commitment, and consequence. Her simple message is that every individual can make a difference. Her life story is certainly proof of that. We hope that her story touches you and connects with the large, diverse audiences of Los Angeles. Our exhibitions are designed to create a powerful learning experience, and we could not do it without incredible partners. Many thanks to the amazing leadership and staff of this extraordinary museum for their partnership from the beginning of this project. Thanks also to our colleagues at the Jane Goodall Institute and to Jane herself for sharing her story with all of us
she allowed our vision for this project to come true. So enjoy. And I just have a few things to add myself, aside from thanking the exhibitions teams here at the museum for working collaboratively with JPI and the National Geographic Museum. I also like to thank all of our cross-departmental partners. These types of exhibitions cannot be done alone, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that. I also wanted to say that there was special effort made to create a Spanish language app here so that our Spanish-speaking audiences in Los Angeles are able to really enjoy this exhibition as well. And I wanted to make a special note of that was in collaboration with many organizations as well. And just similarly to the message that has already been said, that you all individually can make a difference, and it is our collective work together to make an impact on this sustainability and the hope for this world. And I think Tim's message right now is particularly important, and we're ready for it. We've had this, what we call anthropause, and a long moment here with COVID and all the other things that are happening in the world. And it's time. It's time we're ready for this, and all the efforts we put together as an institution for social justice and environmental conservation is wonderful. So, okay. So the moment you've really been waiting for, I'd like to take this back to Dr. Lori Bettison-Varga and, of course, Dr. Jane Goodall in this live interview conversation. Thank you.
President Director of the Natural History Museums of Los Angeles County, and it truly is an honor to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have representatives from the Jane Goodall Institute in the audience, and you know who's here, as well as members of the media here at NHM to preview the new immersive multimedia exhibition, The Coming Jane, that is with Dr. Jane Goodall. Thank you for being with us. It's early evening there. It's a foggy morning in Los Angeles.
Well, I'm so delighted to join you, and I just wish I was there in person. I haven't seen this exhibition yet.
Oh my gosh, I mean, of course you wouldn't have, right? Because it opened just before the pandemic. So, okay, well, we hope you get out to Los Angeles maybe, in the spring and have an opportunity to see it, because it's really beautiful, and it's an important story. I really love to have you talk a little bit about, how you were able to kind of persist from your early years to being this intrepid young woman with a dream to learn about animals in Africa, to establishing yourself as a renowned scientist. And you keep doing this work now as an activist, mentor, and advocate for creating a better world. I know we just reflected about how it's exhausting, but what keeps you going?
What keeps me going is that we human beings, with our superior intellect, have lost wisdom ever since the Industrial Revolution, maybe even the Agricultural Revolution. We've been trashing this planet, and bizarre that the most intellectual creature that's ever lived is destroying his only home. And so we've made a mess, and it's very unfortunate. For the environment, for many animal species that are endangered, some of them highly endangered, and especially for our children. And so what keeps me going is there's a lot to be done. I'm getting older, so I have to work harder.
Well, your message is really critical right now. And, as a geologist, as a former faculty member, really in the 90s, teaching about climate change and thinking back now about the missed opportunity, right? Because there was a lot of dialogue around climate change in the late 80s, and we just missed the opportunity to make change at that time because, like you say, we're just not as smart as we should be on these issues.
Well, think even back then there were climate change deniers. There were people denying the loss of biodiversity, although how you can deny that, I I can't imagine. I mean, just where I am now, I'm talking to you from the home where I grew up as a child. I would say half the birds that I knew as a child, they're not totally extinct, but they've gone from this area. And certainly the insects. I mean, when I was a child, in the summer, you couldn't open the window at night with a light on because the room would be full of insects. Now I get excited if there's one moth or even one mosquito.
You know, and I don't think people realize how important insects are, and that loss of insects is dramatic for all of biodiversity.
Yes, because that leads to the loss of the birds that eat them, and to the animals too, they make their living off insects. It's such an important part of the environment. So and as you learn in the rainforest, everything's interconnected, and every little species has a role to play. And as they become extinct, you know, gradually the ecosystem weakens and is likely to collapse.
So, but you have hope, and I want to hear a little bit about where you see the expression of that today, and I think it's probably through roots and shoots and children.
It's more than that, but when I talk about hope, I don't mean looking at the world through rose-colored spectacles and sitting and saying it's going to be okay. I hope it's going to be okay. I see it as, imagine we're in a very, very dark, long tunnel, and right at the end is a little pinprick of light. That's hope. But to get there, we have to crawl under, climb over, work our way around the many obstacles in our way. And that little light isn't just going to come to us. We have to work to get there. And so that's why it's so urgent. That's what keeps me going, to get more and more people to realize that each one of us makes an impact on the planet every single day. And you mentioned roots and shoots. Well, Roots and Shoots began in '91 because I was meeting, as I was traveling the world, I was meeting so many young people who had lost hope. And when I talked to them, they were either depressed or angry, mostly just apathetic. Oh, we feel like this because you've compromised our future and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, not only have we compromised the future of our young people, we have been persistently stealing it, thinking that there can be unlimited economic development on a planet with finite natural resources, that annual growth of GDP is more important than protecting the environment for future generations. But still, when they said there was nothing they could do about it, I thought, no, that's not true. This is the next generation. They're inheriting the mess that we've made. If they lose hope and do nothing, we've had it. So Roots and Shoots has its main message. Every single one of us makes an impact on the planet every day. And unless we're living in poverty, we get to choose what sort of impact, what we buy, how we behave. And each group of Roots and Shoots chooses 3 projects because, as I said, everything's interconnected. Projects help people, projects help animals, projects help the environment. Or one big project that encompasses them all.
And you've seen this grow. The program's growing. It's in 65 countries now, is that right?
65 and growing. In some countries, it's just a few, little groups. But it's growing. Everywhere it starts, it seems to grow.
Do you have alumni? Are there groups? Because if you think about it, starting in '91, right? You had folks involved for over 30 years almost.
The alumni are very important because they seem to keep their values intact. I mean, I'm sure they don't all. But for example, the environment minister in Tanzania was in Roots and Shoots.
Wow.
And he stood up to the president when that might have meant him losing his life, as it was lost his job. But that's the case with so many of the alumni. And in Roots and Shoots, you learn that much more important than the color of our skin, our culture, our language, our religion is the fact that we're all human beings.
Yes, we are human beings as also the most invasive species. And so we really do need to step back and take action and responsibility for for where we are today. I think one of the things I would say about the Natural History Museum here in Los Angeles is we're really, kind of at the forefront of talking about urban nature and the fact that over 50% of the world's population lives in urban environments now. And so awareness of what's in our environment is really critical as we think about conservation. And I know you've thought a lot about this too, and how important urban nature is, and would love to hear you reflect on that a bit.
Well, a sad thing today is the way that young people are getting dissociated from nature. And sometimes it's because they live in the middle of the inner city surrounded by concrete. And when you go through a city, you go to the affluent areas and there's all these trees and gardens and flowers. Suddenly it changes and it becomes just concrete and grim, and you know that you're now in a deprived area. But one way of improving people's health and helping children to get back in touch with nature is bringing nature into urban areas, planting trees, greening it up, letting children start from very young. Reaching begins with preschool. And the younger you get children, the opportunity of actually being in nature, and little children, they're so fascinated if you put them in nature. There was a little boy the other day, 3 years old, and he was looking very intently at a snail. You know how they glide along the ground? Well, he was watching it, and suddenly he picked it up, popped it on the window pane, and ran inside to look. I mean, that's the curiosity that's natural in us. That's how we've survived through the millennia. We're curious, we investigate, we understand, and that helps us to move forward.
That's so great.
Yeah.
We had an event maybe 2 years ago talking about urban nature, and our video feed cut out. So I invited anybody who wanted to come up and talk about something we saw that day to come speak at the podium at a press event. And these two boys, they must have been 6 and 9, they said, "I want to come up." They came up to the mic and they told a story about walking to school along the sidewalk and looking up at the tree and seeing a mourning dove, and how they could see how the dove had collected bits for its nest. And boy, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. It's that there is nature. It's about being aware and then cultivating and making sure that it fosters and thrives.
And people are not aware. I was in an airport the other day. You know how sparrows sometimes fly around in airports? And here was this pair, male and a female. There was a crumb on the ground, and they were courting. So the male would fly down to get the crumb, and somebody would walk past, buried in their iPad or whatever. And he'd go up and she'd think he'd got the crumbs, begging. And this happened 4 times. The 4th time, he got it and fed her. But nobody noticed.
Yeah. We're too busy. Not being aware, but we are cultivating that awareness here. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is just your persistence as a scientist and going up against a paradigm. And I know you talked about how you just kept doing your work.
Well, the thing was, that I didn't actually set out to be a scientist. I wanted to be a naturalist. I wanted to live with animals and write books about them. So amazingly, I saved up and I got to Kenya and I heard about Dr. Louis Leakey, famous paleontologist, and went to see him, and he took me on one of his gigs to Oliver, actually, and he was impressed by how I behaved when I met one evening a rhino and one evening a lion. Because the other girl and I were just allowed to walk out on the plain. And that led to him giving me this opportunity of going to live with and learn from not just any animal, but the ones most like us, with whom we share 98.6% of our DNA. And so I was with the chimps about 1.5 years, gradually got their trust, took a long time, saw tool using, tool making. That was the breakthrough that brought the National Geographic into the picture. So he said, now you've got to get a degree because we want other scientists to listen to you. You have to have a degree. We've got no time for an undergraduate degree. I've got your position at Cambridge University, that's the UK Cambridge, to do a PhD in ethology. I didn't even know what ethology meant. You couldn't Google anything back then. It was advertising. If it was really important, it was a cherry brand. That was expensive. So I get to Cambridge. And imagine, I'm nervous, obviously, and told I've done everything wrong. You shouldn't have given the chimpanzee things. That's not scientific. They should have numbers. You can't talk about their personality, their mind, or their emotion, because that's unique to us. You can't have empathy with your subject. You've got to be objective. And I was actually told, and it was in the textbooks back then, it says the early 60s, the difference between us and all other animals is one of a kind. Well, fortunately, I've been taught as a child by my dog, who's behind me there, my dog Rusty. I knew that they were completely wrong in this respect. So I didn't confront them, there's no point. I just quietly went on talking about what the chimpanzees did. And then, of course, the geographic sense, you got them now. Many of his pictures are in this exhibition. And when his film started going around, the scientists just had to believe what was my detailed notes and his film showing the chimpanzees doing what I said they did.
But yes, and that footage is amazing to see. It really is. But your observations, the meticulous notes, all of the collection of data over the years spent there is remarkable, and it's changed the way we think about being human.
Yes, it has indeed, because we now know that we're part of the animal kingdom, but realizing the closest living thing to us today is the chimp gives you an opportunity to stand back and say, well, God, we share all these genes together, but we're different. I mean, we're talking like this, we've got the internet, we have beautiful buildings like your museum, we design exhibits, we send people up to the moon. So the difference is the explosive development of our intellect. How bizarre that the most intellectual creature to ever walk the planet is trashing its only home.
I was just thinking that, and we've done all these things. We can address these issues. We can. It's critical that we do. And what kinds of things do you, when folks ask you what as an individual?
Well, first of all, unless you're in deep poverty, you can think about what you buy. You can ask how many miles has it traveled? Did it harm the environment in its production? Was it cruel to animals like factory farming? Is it cheap because of unfair wages or slave labor? And if so, don't buy it. And the consumer pressure is making a big, big difference. Finally, people are realizing. Finally, people are moving to a plant-based diet.
Yes, and I hear that you actually have tried the plant-based meats.
Yeah, that's who like meat.
Yeah. Well, here we talk a lot about the ways that plantings, native species, and encouraging that type of planting in our local environments is really critical to fostering biodiversity, and that's a big difference. That particularly, as you say, folks who can make choices about what they're putting in their gardens, they can do that and ensure that they foster a healthy environment.
Yep, and we can, set about some of the things we have to do if we want to come through this crisis. We've got to ban what they're calling conventional farming, both the growing of crops with monocultures and all these toxic pesticides and herbicides, chemical things that are killing the soil on which we depend, having a massive effect on biodiversity. And ban the intensive animal farming, which is not only cruel, but laying waste huge areas of the natural world just to grow the brain, masses of fossil fuel, and they're all producing methane. Well, we all do, but cows belch as well as, well,
Well, we actually, here, we have an edible garden. We took out the parking lot that used to be on the north side of the Natural Museum, and we have beautiful nature gardens. We have a nature lab. We're all about, sharing always nature with our visitors, and we have an edible garden. A lot of people don't think about where their food comes from.
No, they don't. Well, how can they? How can they? I mean, it comes from a supermarket, right?
Right.
And unlike me, when I was poor, we lived in London, and Mum took me for a holiday in the country, and I had to collect the hen's eggs. Hens, of course, were running around in trees like cows and pigs. And I was asking everybody, but where does the egg come out of the hen? I couldn't see a hole that big, and nobody had told me. So apparently it was 4 hours that I hid in an empty hen house, and I saw a hen lay an egg.
Well, you were definitely the person to be watching those amazing chimps and dombie. You started young with your observation skills.
Oh, I did. That was my first real animal behavior. Except Mum said that when I was 1.5, I was already doing things like taking worms to bed, and she said, you were watching them as you wondered, how do they move without legs?
Wow, and Rusty was very important for your understanding as well of animal behavior.
Yes, I mean, dogs are definitely my favorite animal. People expect it to be chimps, but they're too like people. I mean, there's some wonderful chimps, there's some wonderful people, but there's also some pretty unpleasant chimps, and there's definitely some extremely unpleasant human beings.
So dogs are your favorite.
And Rusty, I've had known many dogs. Once I started comedy and traveling, I couldn't have my own dog, but there's always dogs in the family. I've known dogs, so many, but Rusty was absolutely different. He didn't even belong to us. He lived in a hotel round the corner, and he just started coming. And he'd bark outside the door at 6 a.m., go home for lunch, we didn't feed him, and then we'd throw him out at 10 o'clock or so, ready to bed. And he was just extraordinary.
Well, we're glad that we had them this early in your story, in the exhibition. Do you have a favorite part in the exhibition?
I haven't seen it.
Well, you were involved with it. Weren't you involved with the storytelling? I know you haven't seen it, but is there a favorite part of your life story? How's that?
Oh, well, is there a favorite? I mean, I love the places where it points to animal intelligence, because so many people just don't know that. And I know this is a nice part of that.
Well, we got the hologram. The hologram of you talking is amazing.
Yes, I've heard that, but I need to see it to really, get the feeling of what I like best. What do you like best?
I like the hologram because I just feel like if you're sitting there, you feel like you're with you. Because the whole story is remarkable, and in the end, of course, the action piece. People need to make a commitment to action. As you say, hope, it's not passive. We need to take action.
We definitely need, and that's why, young people are such an important element. And we've got to eliminate poverty too, because if you're really poor, you can't make those decisions, and you destroy the environment just to live, or buy the cheapest junk food just to survive. You can't ask the questions we can. And, hope also in the resilience of nature, like you changed the car park to gardens and stuff. Well, that was once concrete and dead, and now you brought it back to life. Goodall at one point had been part of the Great Forest Belt. By the late 80s, it was a little isolated island of forest surrounded by bare hills. And that's when I realized, if we don't help these people to find a way of living without destroying the environment, we can't save chimps, forest, or anything else. And so we began our Take Care or Tukari program, which is very holistic. It includes things like scholarships for girls, that they can stay in school during and after puberty, have a chance of secondary education. microcredit, giving people a chance to start a small business. And we provide family planning, which is eagerly received for people now away out of poverty. It's a good education. And they can't afford to educate the 8 or 10 children that they used to have. And so they welcome this family planning information, which, by the way, as with everything else, is delivered by the local people, not us. You know, right at the beginning, we didn't march in like a group of arrogant white people. You've made a mess, and this is what we're going to do. We just sent in a hand-picked team of local Tanzanians to ask them, what do you think we can do to make your lives better? And that's why this Kakari method, I think, is so important. And there's about to be a book coming out about it.
Oh, well, that's great. That's great, because we need to see those models, because we need to scale up, and we need to really think about partnership with community. That is really critical. And what does the community need, and how can we help meet those needs? So we think about that at the Natural Museum. Of course, you know, we do research, exhibitions, but we have a really robust education program. We have an all-girls now adventure in nature camp that we do. And it's really important for us, particularly in Los Angeles, which is a very diverse community, that we are reaching as many kids as we can through our program.
So you talk about collaboration and cooperation. So how about collaborating with us with Roots and Shoots?
Absolutely. And we have been talking about that, and we're excited about what we can do in collaboration.
Yep, because when you get together, you can do so much more.
Right.
Yep.
It's true. And we've got a new project here with the new auditorium, so in a couple of years we can beam in from England into our auditorium, and we can have a lot of kids engaging with you, so we're excited about that.
Yep.
Well, is there any message in particular that you haven't already, shared with us that you think Los Angeles in particular should hear?
Well, not necessarily just Los Angeles, everybody. The main message is that every individual matters, has some role to play, and if they don't yet know what it is, if you wouldn't as a young child probably, and makes a difference of some sort every day. And as long as you're not in dire poverty, then you can choose what sort of difference you make. And I think when people understand that although picking up trash or watering plants or doing something to help nature, it may seem insignificant, because what difference can I make? Just you wouldn't, but no, it's now millions, hopefully soon billions of people all trying to do the right thing. That's the real hope.
We all need to take action in order for collectively change to
Single one of us.
take place. And that is a message that I hope everybody in LA hears and beyond. That is critical.
Yep, and by the way, I can't let this end without saying that, so much of what I do is, first of all, it was made possible by my amazing mother, but secondly, the friends I meet along the way, and in particular the staff and volunteers and boards of the Goodall Institute, because that enables me to get the message out. We've got 24 Goodall Institutes around the world now.
Now that's wonderful, and it will keep spreading, and we're excited about the collaboration as well with the Institute. So I'm wondering if we have, if you have a little bit more time, we have a couple of questions from the media.
Okay.
So the Beverly Hills Patch is interested in knowing if you're involved in the climate conference, and if you have anything you would like to say, President Biden, regarding this. What would it be?
Well, I'm not at COP26. I'm not in Glasgow, because my doctors don't want me to be, because I'm so ancient, and I have slight congestion from having bronchitis. So I'm at risk, and, I don't want to just, because you can get long COVID, which damages your brain forever. So I've done so many little talks and messages and lectures for COP26 all over the place. But I'm not there. What would I say to President Biden? Just that he's now in a position where he can truly make a difference to the future. And to think about that and think very carefully about what sort of difference he'd like to see.
Yeah, well, I hope he gets that message from you, because leadership right now is critical. Let's see, Long Beach Al-Diaz asks, how difficult was it to make contact with folks on your first trip to Gombe?
Well, it took 4 months before I could get near the chimps without them running away. And thanks to David Gradier, who lost his fear of me before the others, and showed me tools and tool making, and then really helped me to get to know the other chimps, because if he was in a group that was ready to run, and he just sat there calmly, you could see them looking from him to me and back, and I suppose they thought, well, he can't be as frightening as we thought.
Yeah, we've got another one for you. Out and about with Roger Martin, I keep asking about your views about factory farming. I think you've expressed those already to us. And then he has a question, do you feel that zoos are doing more harm than good to animals?
It depends on the animal, and it depends on the zoo. But the really good zoos, there's no question, but they're playing a very important part in conservation. They're involved in breeding programs and saving animal species from becoming extinct. The good zoos have understood that animals are individuals, and you don't just have a species enclosure, you have an enclosure that actually works for different individuals, and put the groups right and give them the sort of space they need. And, children come in to a good zoo, and so many people have said, well, I went into wildlife because I used to visit the zoo.
Yeah, and I know that the Los Angeles Zoo has a very strong conservation message.
Yeah.
It's very much a part of what they do. So I think last question, Ariel Wessler from Spectrum News One wonders what your message would be to aspiring female scientists.
The same message that my mother gave to me when I was 10 and announced that I was going to grow up, go to Africa, live with wild animals and write books about them. Everybody laughed. How will you do that? Africa's far away, you don't have money. We had very little money. And you're just a girl. Girls don't do that sort of thing. We're going back along many, many years now. But Mum had another message. If you really want to do something like this, you're going to have to work really hard, take advantage of every opportunity, and if you don't give up, maybe you'll find a way. And I would say to young girls today, there still is discrimination in business, but it's much, 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 much less than when I was growing up. It's really changed. I mean, look at you, there you are, the head of this great museum. And that probably wouldn't have been possible when I was growing up. So change is happening. And I would urge the young people not to be aggressive, but just to prove that they're as good or better than their male counterparts, often better actually. But I would have one message for the media too, since they're all captive and listening, and that is that media is filled with stories of doom and gloom about the environment, which we need to know, but please give more space to all the amazing stories and the incredible people doing amazing things to help the environment, slow down climate change, destroy landscapes. Please put more time and effort into those stories as well, because that's what gives people hope.
And I think that's a perfect way to end this delightful time that I've had to spend with you, Dr. Goodall. Thank you so much for your time. And we are really looking forward to meeting you in person, we hope, at the Natural History Museum for your first time through the exhibition about your life. So I'm looking forward to that visit this spring. Let's hope that we get this pandemic under control so that you can come join us here.
I hope so. I've got so many wonderful friends in Los Angeles, and I miss them. So hello to them all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, too.
Have a good evening.
Bye.